Coming up, the reigning national champions of college football begin their quest to repeat. How likely is that? We take you to their summer camp to find out. And the Fighting Illini won 10 games last year. Their sights are on the playoffs, maybe a Big Ten crown this year. We talk to an expert about how likely that is on Big Ten Today now. Hi there, Mike Hall here. Happy Friday to you. Getting ready for a fun weekend, and we're getting you ready with an interesting half hour coming your way. Two teams we're going to focus on, both of which are in the top 12 of the newly released coaches preseason poll. That's Ohio State and Illinois. We'll start off with the Buckeyes. They are the defending national champs after all, looking to repeat that, which would make them the first Big Ten team to do so since 1941. They have new coordinators on both offense and defense, but they have some important familiar names like Mr. All-Everything Jeremiah Smith on offense and his counterpart Caleb Downs on defense. Let's check in with our crew on site watching a Buckeye practice for a couple hours for the latest on the champs.
Thanks, Mike. Plenty to talk about here in Columbus. Dave Refson, Howard Griffith, Jerry DiNardo, and Jake Butt. You got the defending national champs. Mm-hmm. You've got new coordinators on both sides of the ball. You've got a quarterback battle. And you've got Texas looming as the first game. So I think we can do a little gabbing here. There's plenty to cover. Yeah. Where do you want to start, Howard?
I would start on the offensive side, but not with the quarterbacks, but with the play caller and Brian Hartline. I think his ability to really adapt and really understand what is expected of him from that position, I think is going to be able to help the quarterbacks as he continues to coach that group up and get them ready for what plays that are going to be the right for whoever's going to be the starting quarterback. I think it starts there, but he's just, it feels a lot different this year than it was 2 years ago when he was the offensive coordinator. He's in a different position. He's grown even more. I think the maturity level is really clear when I watch him work outside on the practice field.
You know the first thing I'm going to say. Toughest job in college football is calling the plays. I firmly believe that. On the other hand, he has learned from two of the best play calls in college football. One, I'll start with Chip Kelly, who's very creative. And Brian will mention that when you talk to him about it. But the other one, more importantly, is Ryan Day, and he happens still to be on the staff. and so you have a resource that's been here and left, and you have a resource who's also your boss, who will help Brian through this process. And Ryan Day has called plays for a long, long time. He'll know what he needs to do to help Brian, or maybe he'll step back, but it'll be very beneficial for Brian to have learned from Chip and to be with Ryan right now.
Yeah, that's an important piece of this is he's spent so much time with Coach Day. He's an extension of Coach Day. I mean, they speak the same language. They understand. They have the same goals. They understand personnel and what they want this offense to look like. And then with the quarterbacks, sometimes you say if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. No, they have two starting quarterbacks. It's just different in their strengths and what that might look like. And whether it's the quarterback or the play caller, sometimes teams have to answer a quarterback battle or a new play caller. But they'd also have to answer wide receivers in offensive line and tight ends. The good thing is for the quarterback and the play caller, this is the best wide receiver unit in college football. The tight end room is extremely deep. The offensive line, they have 7 or 8 starters. So as you're introducing these new key pieces, you got stability all around them. That can only help the quarterback and the offensive play caller.
The other thing, Jake, you can say about having two quarterbacks is we can play two quarterbacks. Now Texas is in the open. It makes it maybe a little bit more difficult than if it was an easier non-conference game. But I think they're open to playing two if the thing doesn't shake out the way they want it.
I think one of the other key factors here, whoever wins the quarterback battle, is who's ultimately able to move the team. Who's not going to put the ball in harm's way, not going to turn the ball over. And the running game, I think, has to be a big part of that as well as you continue to, we can throw it all over the park. And I know you're going to want to talk about your tight ends and your wide receiver group, but you have talent everywhere. But ultimately, to make that run, you have to have the guys up front They can put their hand in the dirt and just drive block guys off the ball, and then you have to have, obviously, running backs, which they do in both positions, have the players there that are going to allow this run game to go as well.
Howard, you mentioned up front, really unique today to watch 3 offensive line coaches coach the offensive line. It breaks down to 1 coach for every 2 players, and the best coaching, the best feedback is immediate, and that offensive line, I've never seen an offensive line coach better than I've seen it today.
Yeah, and that was intentional by Coach Day, because the center is a different position than the guards, is a different position than the tackles. That's intentional, and now with the new rule, you have unlimited coaches. So again, Ryan Day getting this program to the place he wants. But you ever hear a defensive coordinator say, hey, we got to take away the strength of the offense? Okay, so what's the strength? It's the wide receivers. When you're playing Ohio State, you have to have split safety coverage. You have to have safeties over the top to help your corners because of the talent that Ohio State has at wide receiver. Max Clare is the number 1 or number 2 best tight end in the Big Ten right now. Are you going to have a linebacker guard him with no safety help over the top? That's going to be a complete mismatch. Okay, maybe you come in with dime or nickel personnel. Well, this Buckeye offensive line looks like it can be one of the, in the running backs, absolutely. They look like they could be one of, if not the best in the Big Ten. So I bring it back to the offensive play caller and the quarterback. They have the guys to exploit the weakness of the defense. Can Hartline call the right plays to put him in position, and can the quarterback read the defense to put the ball on the money?
And does the decision about the quarterback come down to, we've got to get the ball to these wide receivers and the tight ends? Which quarterback can do that the best?
I'll throw this out as well. I mean, we've seen this before. We've come to Columbus and there was a quarterback battle, and they figured it out. Right? They figured out who that guy is going to ultimately be, and the players, it's going to play out on the field. I think the best part, they have the talent here to be able to allow that to play out.
But I will say this, and we've been coming to camps across the Big Ten for 19 years, and a lot of times you come in, they say there's a quarterback battle, and we go to camp, and we can tell who it's going to be. Either one guy just stands out and is clearly better, or the way that they're distributing the reps. You couldn't tell today. I don't think, again, they're very different quarterbacks. Lincoln Keenholz has the ability to run maybe a little bit more than Julian Say, and Say more of a pure passer, so there's the difference there. But the reps were being split equal, and there was no one that was head and shoulders. This guy clearly makes the offense move better. So it's going to be an interesting decision for Ryan Day and company, Brian Hartline as well. Let's talk about the defense, because that's a huge storyline as well. Jerry, you had a chance to visit with Matt Patricia. We all got a chance to watch this defense operate. Again, he's taken over for Jim Knowles. They were the #1 defense in the country a year ago. Matt Patricia hasn't coached in college football in more than 20 years. He's incredibly accomplished as a guy who's won multiple Super Bowls, including 2 as a defensive coordinator. What did you think of what you saw from that group?
Well, he takes over very enthusiastically, I'll say that. A typical NFL guy that comes to college after being away from it for 15 or 20 years, more stoic, more matter of fact. Matt Patricia fits in perfectly personality-wise. I think he feels like they're in really good shape, as you always would expect Ohio State. I think the one place is the interior, the 2 interior down linemen that are going to line up against the offensive guards probably is his biggest decision when it comes to who his starting 11 are going to be.
Yeah, particularly, Edric Houston is projected to be a starter. He's a 5-star. They moved him inside last year. He's not practicing right now, but he has star power potential. So then you factor in the depth. And, just looking at them, the floor is a top-tier defensive line. That's just Ohio State. This is going to be one of the top defensive lines in the conference. The question is can they dominate and control games? I go back the Penn State game last year. Stuffed Penn State on the goal line. It's a credit to their defensive line. Texas, Jack Sawyer has the strip sack to close out the game. This defensive line can take you there, but can they win games for you? That remains to be seen. I'm really impressed by the linebacker room. I won't say the greatest, because there's a long list of great Buckeye linebackers, but Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese are both 245 pounds and run like safeties. That's the most athletic linebacker room I've seen here in Columbus. I'm not even talking about Caleb Downs yet.
Yeah. And I think one of the parts when you think about the outside linebackers, how you're able to change up your defense with having guys that have that versatility. They can put their hand in the ground if need be. And then you look at the secondary that they have, and they're as talented as can be back there.
Again, you go back to the Texas game. First-time coordinator, some of these guys first-time starts. I mean, it'll be beneficial regardless of the result of the game. I feel strongly about that.
Okay, so from your point of view, even though you have all these question marks, you still feel like in this day and age where, I mean, Ohio State showed us last year, you can lose games, you can lose multiple games, and still win the national championship. So we all agree playing Texas at the outset, a good thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not the head coach. But absolutely, to be able to get a gauge for your team and your program where you are at this point, it's a great matchup.
Yeah, because I think there's something good that's going to come out of it regardless of the result.
What's fun is players, too. I mean, these guys, they're now what a great opportunity to showcase. You came to Ohio State for a reason. You've waited your turn. Now there's a number of guys. We're looking at you. You're the starters. What better metric to find out what you're made of than playing Texas?
Plus, I just had a fight with them not too long ago. So they know they're good.
Yeah, yes, they do. Yeah, a battle that came right down to the wire. Man, it's going to be fun. I mean, 1 versus 2 in the coaches' poll to open the season. It's incredible to think of all of the focus that'll be on that game. I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to talk about it a little bit more. This won't be our last opportunity.
Like how it says, we're not Ryan Day.
Easy for us to be excited, Mike.
Yeah, I'll say, and speaking of exciting, where to next? Bloomington for the national surprise story of the year last year. Our guys sit down with Kirk Cignetti and look ahead to the upcoming Hoosiers season. Indiana football training camp show coming up 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific right here on the Big Ten Network. Well, you know they have sand, Illinois. What a season it was last year. Tied the program record with 10 wins on the year. Had 4 ranked wins, something they've never done better than last year. 6 Big Ten wins for the first time since that Rose Bowl 07 season. And their highest final AP poll rank since the very beginning of the century. Illinois insider Jeremy Werner is joining us now, and everybody's excited about this team. There's a lot of reasons for optimism. What would you say, Jeremy, is the biggest question right now surrounding what will or will not be the Illinois season?
Yeah, it's who's going to catch passes from Luke Altmaier, right? I mean, Luke Altmaier returns as one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten, really asserted himself. He's got a lot of swagger and confidence right now, but he's still trying to find who are his go-to guys, because Pat Bryant is a third-round pick of the Broncos. Sounds like he's going to be a starter there for year 1 with Sean Payton and Bo Nix. But then you also lose Zachary Franklin, who was the most targeted player on Illinois last year. It's kind of a fun stat, even though you had Pat Bryant. Zachary Franklin was a really good player for them coming over for Ole Miss. So it's a talented and deep room, but it's an unproven room when it comes to being go-to guys. They have a couple returners that they really need to elevate their games. Hank Beatty, Colin Dixon, 2 veterans that Illinois really trusts that have been slot players. Dixon's got some versatility. I think he's really going to emerge. But former 4-star prospect Malik Elzy, it's his time. He was a huge recruiting win for Brett Bielema, still the highest rated guy he has signed so far. So it is now his time. He's 6'2", 215, reminds me physically of Josh Imatorbhebhe. So we'll see if he can earn that trust and be a go-to guy. They also brought in a couple transfers. Justin Bowick out of Ball State, huge 6'5", 200 pounds, fast straight line, can be a downfield target. The most proven guy they have is Hudson Clement, a West Virginia transfer, led the Mountaineers in receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns last year. But he missed some training camp or some spring practice time with an ankle injury. So he's still kind of acclimating and trying to earn that spot. So it's an intense competition. It's a fun competition. But Luke Altmaier and Barry Lunny are really trying to find the guys that they can rely on Saturdays.
Speaking of rely on, Altmaier's going to need to rely on his offensive line. Everybody is back, but they did give up a good amount of sacks last year. What's your overall read on the OL?
Well, it's actually a group that's had some injuries here early on in training camp. J.C. Davis is out a week or 2 with plantar fasciitis. Melvin Priestley missed a couple days with a right toe injury. And Aiden Knappich, a transfer they brought in from Idaho's J.C. Davis's backup, he's missed some time. So that always makes you worry a little bit. But when this group is healthy, it was rolling towards the end of last year. I mean, they ran over a Michigan defensive front that is really good. They ran over a South Carolina defensive front that was really good in the Citrus Bowl. So they kind of emerged with this identity late in the season of we can run over you, we can protect Altmaier pretty well. Altmaier does take some blame in some of those sacks, but now it's about just carrying that momentum into this season. And that's why the injuries get a little bit concerning in training camp. But this is a group with a bunch of veterans. I think there's 4 guys who could be at the NFL Combine next year with Davis, Priestley, Josh Kreutz, and Josh Geske. And Brandon Henderson, I think, has NFL potential as well. So staying healthy, but really hitting the ground running, because the last 2 years they have really struggled out of the gates on the offensive line. Playing Penn State doesn't help with some of that, but there's a really big key for them is to impose their will from the start, because this group does remind me of the 2022 group that had 4 players that are now in the NFL and was a Joe Moore semifinalist. They had that kind of potential. Now they got to live up to it.
Offensive line can not only help the quarterback, but of course create holes for the running game. Josh McCray transferred out. Where are we right now in the running back position?
It's clear the top 2 are, and when healthy, they're really good. I mean, Aiden Lawfrey, we always go back to that Northwestern game. That was his full breakout, 170 yards, 3 touchdowns. Gives them that speed element they really hadn't had since Chase Brown left. And we kind of been waiting for Aiden Lawfrey to have those moments. He was a big recruiting win over Iowa and Brett Bielema's first year here, and he always had that speed, but he always had some nagging soft tissue injuries that kind of limited him. Now it's his time to really emerge, stay healthy for an entire season, and show what he showed at the end of the year. He had a good game against South Carolina as well. And then Caden Fagan, man, like Brett Bielema, I even told this to him to his face, like he gets youthful excitement when talking about the potential of Caden Fagan. Just 6'3", 250 pounds, the speed that he has, the explosiveness that he has. Brett Bielema's had a lot of running backs, but he gets so excited talking about Caden Fagan. The problem is he's only played 14 games in his first 2 years. He's had 2 catastrophic injuries, 1 with the shoulder, 1 last year with a hip injury during an off week last year. When healthy, he could be the top skill player on this team. He could be a next level guy at running back, the next in a long line of great running backs for Illinois. He just has to prove that he could stay healthy. But they will miss Josh McCray because he gave them depth. He was their best pass blocker. So it's important that those guys improve in some of those little bit of areas. And then Khalil Valentine, former 4-star prospect, great speed, great quickness. Luke Altmaier said he brings a jolt to the offense. He's got to get stronger between the tackles, become a better pass blocker. They have talent there, Mike, but losing Josh McCray, he did a lot of little things that helped him win.
What's the big picture takeaway on the Illini defense? They made big strides forward last year compared to the previous year. Some big names have come back this year. What stands out to you?
Yeah, to me, I mean, that secondary is going to be a strength. Gabe Akis, obviously one of the best pass rushers in the country. The question mark for me is on the defensive line. For a second straight year, they had to overhaul that defensive line completely. They lost T-Rod Edwards, who had a great year at nose tackle. Dennis Briggs was a great one-year player from Florida State. They also lost Alex Bray, a transfer to Kansas in the offseason. He started some games for them last year. So they replenished that defensive front, and they took a lot of players from Wisconsin. James Thompson Jr., they are excited about it. I think he's their top transfer addition, 6'6", 300 pounds, really disruptive, missed last year with an injury, but they think he's got NFL potential. Kurt Neal comes in, plugs in at nose tackle from Wisconsin. Then they added Leon Lowry, an edge rusher from Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin's defensive front wasn't great last year, so it's about unlocking those guys in their scheme. But defensive line, Illinois did not do a great job of stopping the run last year. It was the worst yards per carry they'd given up under Brett Bielema, and they struggled to get off the field on third down. So I think those are 2 areas they really have to improve. And for me, it all starts with stopping the run, of making sure third down is 3rd and long rather than 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, because they're giving up 4 or 5 yards a clip last year on the ground. So that defensive front is the main storyline for me.
Jerry, you've covered Illinois for so long. You know this program inside and out. Give me the idea of the vibe around campus on this team. It feels to me like the excitement level right now is in a different stratosphere from what we've seen in the last decade. Maybe that 07 season comes close, but to me it feels really different. How does the vibe feel to you around Champaign?
There's a ton of excitement, Mike, but I do think there's a little bit more cautious excitement and cautious optimism around here because of the history of Illinois. After every good year of the 21st century, it's been a disappointment, a complete fall off, right? I mean, after 2001, you go to the Sugar Bowl, you followed up with a 5-win bowlless season. After the Rose Bowl in 2007 season, you followed up with a 5-win bowlless season. And even 2 years ago, there was a lot of buzz about Illinois after winning 8 games, adding some talent, returning some talent. They win 5 games and don't go to a bowl game. So there is excitement. There's reason to. You have a great coaching staff. You have coordinator continuity. The assistant coaches are really strong, and Brett Bielema just knows what he's doing. But you return talent that can play in the NFL that has proven itself at the college level, and you have a schedule that does provide an advantageous opportunity, right? But it's also hard to win 10 games. It is hard to follow up and live up to expectations, and that's the next step for this program.
Always learn something when you chat with Jeremy Werner. Thanks, man. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mike.
Full steam ahead for the Ducks, the reigning champions of the Big Ten Conference. Remember, they've never lost a conference game as a member of the Big Ten. Undefeated regular season last year, won the Big Ten title game. Only loss last year came to the Buckeyes in the playoffs. Here's Dan Lanning, the head coach, with an update on all things in Eugene.
Real positive so far through fall camp. Really competitive practice today. Finished out with some red area. Offense got the upper hand today in that and goal line. Some explosive plays showing up. Haven't seen a lot of those so far through fall camp. Saw some today, which is a real positive. Defense doing a great job attacking the ball. Some of our explosives today weren't necessarily shots down the field, right? Some of those explosives today were explosive runs, right? And that's credit to the O-line and the backs doing a great job. But taking advantage of opportunities, right? Every defense has a strength, every defense has a weakness, same with offense, right? And, when you really can become a separator is when things are equal, right? When they have a good call, you have a good call, and it's a one-on-one matchup, who's going to go win that matchup, right? So all those things add up, timing, getting in a rhythm, they all matter when it comes to explosive plays.
Oregon had an all-time program record for wins last season, which is the same sentence you could say for Indiana. The 11 wins the Hoosiers had was the most of all time, and Indiana is up next. You can see our Hoosiers training camp show 8 Eastern tonight, 7 Central Time.